Welcome, welcome, welcome. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're tapping in from. Welcome. This has been a 6-day live journey through just a little peek, a little look within the book, bringing spirituality into business, just to give you an insight as to how deep we're going to be going into exploring you and what makes you tick, what's getting you or bringing you the results you're currently receiving in life. And oftentimes we come at our life thinking it's happening to us. And I think one of the greatest questions I was ever asked was, do you believe that you live in a friendly universe? Do you believe the universe is friendly? Because if you don't, everything you do, everything that happens could look different, right? So our overall perception of the world around us is really key to deciphering, discerning, and giving meaning to what's showing up in our reality. This was one of my first and greatest awarenesses as I journeyed through A Course in Miracles. And that journey taught me that I give meaning to everything in my reality. No one else but me, unless, I'm buying into their meaning and accepting it as my own. And then still, I gave meaning to everything in my reality. So if you don't like what's going on around you, the first question is, do you believe you exist? You live in a friendly universe? The opposite to it being friendly would mean that, you live in a chaotic or violent universe, that you are always struggling to protect yourself, to defend yourself. And then we come at life from a perspective of survival. I think of, living on this planet when the dinosaurs lived here, like that would have been survival, right? Just not to get stomped on and stepped on by these huge, massive creatures. One time I was at a venture cafe where Boeing and some big corporations had brought some big current technology in to display and share with the public. And one was a virtual reality booth, and they had about, 6, maybe 8 different headsets that you could put on, and each headset was a different experience. One was a fighter jet. One was walking amongst the dinosaurs. And I'm going to tell you, just to put that headset on and to visually look through the lenses of seeing yourself in that reality, wow, it feels so real. If you've never experienced virtual reality, I invite you to check it out. It does go to show you just how we can imagine anything, and our body doesn't know the difference between our imagination and the reality we're living. So whatever you're thinking, whatever you're believing is going to manifest and show you reasons to validate it, no matter what it is. So today we're talking about practices, and that starts the practice, right? Because how you see the universe as friendly or volatile starts a practice of your beliefs and your thinking to start off your day. But I have a whole chapter on practices to empower you. And they really are practices that will take you to new levels once you've really began to permeate them. And what is a practice? I start off in the book explaining what that practice is. A practice is the act of doing something again and again. The aim of the practice is to get really good at something, to master it. What really happens behind the scenes is that as you practice, you're sending signals to your subconscious to permeate this behavior or activity into the operating system within that really runs the show for you when you're not conscious or aware. So each one of us has at our access this subconscious that works on our best behalf. It picks up our habits, our practices, whether we really want it to or not, and it begins to permeate them. I remember as I was growing up, my parents told me to pick my friends wisely, and I passed this message on to my kids. It was powerful because we become most like the top 5 people that we surround ourselves with. So if one of your friends is always using cuss words or thinking negatively, you may find yourself picking up those very habits. We are creatures of our environment, and environment trumps default anytime, meaning that if you don't have your own awareness active to catch what's going on for you, your environment will trump the programming for you. It'll program you to what's going on. And that's why I say we've all been conditioned by COVID. The effects, the programming that got put in place through COVID are big, it's bold, but the meaning you gave it is unique to you. So how you got programmed, could be just aimlessly accepting it, or you could have guided and steered and designed it specifically for your best behalf. So practices will empower you, or they could disempower you. Very easily, they go in either direction. If we're not careful, if we're not cautious, and we're around a lot of negativity and we get stuck in it for a long period of time, it's said right now that we're in the biggest mental health pandemic the world has ever seen as a result of COVID. But keep in mind that COVID just escalated and amplified what was already present. So there were probably signs or symptoms of steering in that direction. But we're all just one thought away from a spiral up to higher levels of consciousness, or a spiral down to lower levels of consciousness. Not maybe, for certain, we all are. So if you have any questions as I'm going through anything here, type a big Q into the chat box. And I'm not going to be, I didn't activate the chat box on Zoom. I've only allowed the chat box on YouTube to be active. So type your questions in on the YouTube chat comment box and put a Q, a capital Q before your question if you happen to have a question for me, so that I can be sure and answer it at the end. So these practices will definitely empower you when you take control, when you plan your agenda, when you set intentions. All the magic begins to happen on your best behalf when you set those intentions for your growth, for what you want to program. And that, to me, is the greatest ability that you're going to walk away from through this book, is the ability to become aware of who you're being, what you're giving your attention to, your focus to, whether it's a lower vibrational energy or a higher vibrational energy, whether you're in alignment with all that you're crafting, creating, and leaning into, or whether you're struggling to get upstream. And there's a big difference. One is just easy breezy, and one is just hard and efforting all the time. And how do you know the difference? Pay attention. Tune into this now moment. Does it feel hard? Does it feel like you're pushing upstream? Does it feel like you're really efforting? Are you struggling? Because this really matters. Okay, I say these practices that empower you are the practices that you might want to make habits to actually grow yourself in the journey of life. Hint, hint, right? They are practices that you might choose to adopt for your own, okay? I only list a few practices, and there are many. In fact, I'm going to share with you one today that's not even listed in the book because I take you through it in the book club, and we start with it on chapter 1. So if you're with me in the book club, yay! I see you tomorrow, and I am super, super excited to begin this journey with you. One thing I know for sure is no matter what level you're at in your own life, wherever you're at, to growing yourself, to becoming more of who you're here to be and become, this book will take you further. Not maybe, yes, for certain, it will take you further. I don't care if you're a C-suite executive and you're an author and you're a podcast host, or if everything is lining up for you, I'm telling you, this will still drop you into new insights, new awarenesses, new becomings for your next step, your next up-leveling. We're here to grow. We're here to increase, not maybe, for certain. And we do it by leaning in to all that we are, by saying yes to the invitations and the opportunities that come before us, by embracing and engaging those people in new ways that step in and aid us along the way. So the practices, I share one of them, and I shared one early on when we talked about awareness being your superpower. Awareness is a great tool or skill to really master, but once you practice awareness enough, it's a field that you reside in, and you become the observer. That observer role is a practice that you need to step into. So I mentioned that one. It's in chapter 23, and I mentioned the power of the observer and to spend more time being a witness to your life and just noticing. And in that noticing, you'll start to notice you're really not efforting. You're just observing yourself moving through the motions. I remember as a runner finding my first runner's high, right? Reaching that point where I got a second wind, where everything was effortless. The breathing was so systematic and so automatic and so in harmonious tune to the movement of my body. But in that runner's high, I was the witness. I was the observer of myself in motion in such an effortless way. It really is a true high. I mean, I know runners who run just for the runner's high, right? Just for that high of reaching that peak, that point where life is living through you, right? Life is living you. You're not efforting, you're not in control, you're just observing it happen effortlessly. You're in the natural flow of life. C-suite executives pay big bucks to learn the techniques and tricks and tips to get into these states of flow, right? Many C-suite executives seek psychedelics to get into biohacking their way into higher states of flow. It looks like an altered state. It really does, but it isn't an altered state like a psychedelic state. It really is you surrendering. I do believe that we can practice this being focused. You're focused on something, right? So whether it's focused on a project at work, whether it's focused on a hobby, whether you're hiking, mountain biking, doesn't matter. Sports are a big key to taking us to that new level, right? Because they cause us to focus in on that sport, whether it's mountain climbing, whether it's skiing, surfing, doesn't matter. They cause us to focus in on the precise now moment. And in that now moment, there's also surrendering of what is, where you're not efforting, you're not working super hard to get the results you want. You're leaning into the natural flow. And that, to me, is what the observer lets you do. But I mentioned lifestyle because our lifestyle is a big proponent to the results we get. But contemplating moments of your day that you specifically get curious about, why did I say that? Why did I do that? Another one is a really, really, really good one is non-judgment. Non-judgment is actually a practice that I seriously invite you to take ownership of. Non-judgment is so freeing when you realize you are not here to judge another. Oh my goodness, the time, the energy, the freedom that comes from non-judgment is amazing. There's a little book out there and you can find it on a PDF online. And it's by the author Emmett Fox. It's a 7-day diet. It's not a regular food diet or exercise diet. It's a mental diet. And you basically have to go through these stages of non-judgment all day. And if you can't master it that day, you start your 7 days all over again. So I know people who are still yet struggling to get through the 7-day mental diet. And it doesn't come easy. We're creatures of habit. We were taught to have opinions. We were taught to look outside ourselves. And the whole journey I'm bringing you on is a journey inward. It's a journey inward to where you stop looking out there at others. But even if you're looking inward, you stop judging yourself. You stop criticizing yourself. You notice that small voice of the ego that's trying to criticize, and you start pouring on the goodness. But how do you pour on the goodness, right? How do you get to that point? And this is where I really want to share the number one practice to master. If you know what it is, type it in the comments. I think it's easy to figure out, but even if it's not coming to you, I think that what will happen is that you'll realize after I tell you what it is, oh, I knew that, right? Like it just slipped your mind. Because I don't think I'm teaching you anything. I'm bringing back into your awareness. I'm reminding you of what you already know and that you've lost focus to. And these are really the practices that will grow you the fastest. And the most important one is truly found in the book. When you say down here, it says, know yourself, grow yourself to live life empowered. To know yourself, what do you have to do? You have to lovingly look at and accept all aspects of yourself. You have to truly, unconditionally love yourself. This self-love will take you into deeper aspects of knowing yourself in the most powerful and dynamic ways. Think about it when you enter into a relationship with that special someone, and that special someone could be your child, your spouse, your partner. You really care about them. You compassionately care about them. You love them. And that loving causes you to want to know more about them, right? And as you learn about them, you don't start keeping a fault folder on them. You love them unconditionally. You look at the weaknesses and say, how can I support them in these areas, right? How can I empower them and help grow them? through these weaknesses? How can I, shine the loving light of awareness to more of who they are instead of focusing on these weaknesses? So love, just feel it for a moment. Just think about it, because when you truly love yourself and all aspects of you, even the parts that you don't like so much, when you don't like them, you resist them. And what you resist persists. The biggest key to people seeking counseling, seeking therapy, seeking support to change aspects of themselves is found in all that they're resisting, because all that resistance is creating more resistance. What you resist persists, and it'll give you more reasons to persist more things, and more things will come to you for your resistance, right? You become the self-sabotager of your own success by your own resistance. But what if you just chose to accept that part of you? You accept that. Not that you like it, not that you love it, not that you want to redo it or have it happen again or experience it again, but you accept it and move on. In the grand scheme of things, and the whole lineal timeline of your life, it is one small little aspect of all that you are. And the more you keep resisting it, brings focus to it being bigger than it is. So you're creating more energy around it. And as you create more energy around it, it amplifies in your bodies. We have an energy body, we have an emotional body, we have a physical body, a subtle body, a spiritual body. All these different energetic bodies trap and hold these overly charged emotions. I even question that I say overly charged. I mean, they're obviously overly charged because you haven't processed them and you're still resisting them. But they're improperly charged. They're improperly categorized, right? That very resistance is you resisting life. So you're dissing what is, what happened. And that whole dissing of it is like putting up a wall, putting up a block to your very progress. Now you have to climb over that wall every time you want to move forward. And that's hard, heavy work and lifting, work that I wouldn't want anyone to have to go through. So when we love ourselves unconditionally, our fears, our worries, our doubts, our insecurities, our quirks, our stupid giggle, our snorting when we laugh, our whatever it is, when we seriously just start to own all aspects of ourselves, that's when we move through life with greater ease. And we get to see all those aspects of ourselves and integrate them more quickly, more easily. And that's when we find, guess what? Peace. Peace. That calm place of powerful confidence, courage, and clarity, right? Where we are clear to make proper decisions, where we're clear to make powerful, supportive decisions for ourselves and for others. So, what's the first step in loving yourself? I think it's really just for a moment, pause and imagine what you'd feel like right now if you fully and completely loved every aspect of yourself. So often, losing those extra pounds is met with resistance because we don't like or accept ourselves. We find fault with being fat. We don't see ourselves as attractive or lovable or fitting in. And all of that is what keeps us from losing weight and from moving beyond the struggle we're in. So loving yourself is by far the very first and foremost practice to master. When we talk about bringing spirituality into business, we're bringing spirit into the business of all that we are. And I'm here to say, this spirit, this inner intelligence, you can call it your intuition, you can call it your inner guidance, you can call it Holy Spirit, you can call it source, you can call it God. It lives in you, guiding you. Whether you think it's your higher self, whether you think it's your soul, it doesn't matter the label, the name, or the energy that you give to it, right? I don't care what you call it, right? Like, it does not matter to me. The meaning you give it, the knowledge you're knowing that it's a higher aspect, a higher energy, your spiritual intelligence, that is key. Your spiritual intelligence comes from those aspects within you. They're soft, they're subtle, inner guidances. And when you start to turn them on, when you start to tune into them, when you start to listen more clearly, more focused with them, that's when the magic happens. And the biggest thing you can do to practice this day in and day out is self-love. When you love yourself, you model and show others how to respect you at a whole new level. You will model integrity in what you say when you practice self-love. When you practice self-love, the whole world starts to shift and show you love in a whole new way. All of the interactions, relationships, engagements, conversations, experiences that you begin to have that theme of love and joy and peace within them. Love is your natural state. It's the natural state of who you are. Think for a moment about a new baby coming into the world. I'm a grandma, and as I look at this little Maple, and I just see how she's nothing but pure love, right? She just loves everything and everyone, and just knows that she's loved, right? And that's all she really knows at this level. She's only one. And she hasn't experienced anything outside of love yet. She hasn't built up walls or barriers to being loved. She hasn't developed opinions of herself or judgment of herself. She hasn't done any of the human aspects or hasn't learned any of the human behaviors that we pick up along the way that sort of derail our results. But when I look at the highly successful people I work with, one of the very first things they have and model is that self-respect, integrity, and love of themselves. And it's what allows them to love their job, to do a great job at it, to be a powerful impact and influence in their community and their work and their position at the office, in their relationships, right? In the roles that they play. So key to all of this is you. No one else, just you. And as you take control of all that you are, as you begin to tune in to where you're blocking love, where you've put up barriers, where you've put up blocks, where you are resisting accepting a part of you or looking at an aspect that you really don't like. I invite you to look at it so deeply that you peel back the onion to what you're resisting. What are you afraid you're going to find? Because generally speaking, there's a fear there of what you think you might find along the way. So your habits, your practices, whatever you practice day in and day out becomes the habit that you're programming your subconscious to do for you. When you practice loving yourself, you begin to write a program that then catches you when you're out of self-love, right? Because you've practiced it so long that it became an autonomous program running for you on your best behalf. So when you're out of alignment and that little small voice comes and sits on your shoulder and wants to criticize or critique or question you in some way, some shape, some form, you quickly and easily notice and say, no, not going there. And you might observe, you might reflect, you might contemplate your behavior, but you do it with an unbiased lens. You look through a lens of love, right? Not a lens of judgment and criticism. And that changes everything. It allows you to work with what you see. It allows you to alter and change your behaviors quickly and easily without all the struggle that we've been getting in the past. So send me a message, leave me a comment on your level of self-love on a scale of 1 to 5, with 5 being, you just love and accept all aspects of yourself. And if ever anything shows up that's unloving, or you feel like you were criticized or judged by another, that you can quickly let it go because you do love yourself. That's a 5. And 0 would be you really struggle with the self-love. That day in and day out, you probably have a occurrence or a few where you're reminded, or you're criticizing yourself, or you're reminded that you don't love yourself. And you've got work to do. But give yourself a rating of 0 to 5, your level of self-love. And make this the first habit, the first practice that you engage in as we start our journey together, because love was your natural state when you came in to this world. Yes, the birth process was a little challenging. Yes, it put some pressure on things. You were in a womb of water and support and comfort and ease, right? And you came into the world and your lungs had to start operating first and foremost. And to get them to activate, you had to cry and burst out, right? And all of that is a bit of trauma, a bit of stress. But there are stresses that are good that's good stress for the body. When you think about eating raw foods, that's good stress for your digestive system. That's good stress for your body. When you think of exercise and working out, that's good stress for your body, right? Like, we need good stresses, and we need to learn to manage the stresses that aren't healthy for us. No stress is good permanently, right? So we were never meant to hold on to any stress of any kind. But the self-love lets us come back home to our center over and over and over again. And from your center, you're empowered. You're truly empowered. And that's the gift I want you to grasp as we go through this book together. I can't wait for tomorrow. If you're not in the book club, get in. I gave you a coupon code with love. It gets you in for $1. I just sent emails out to everyone who has subscribed to the book club with the Zoom link to get in tomorrow, and I'll see you at noon, Central Standard Time. If you're in a different time zone, calculate accordingly. For the East Coast, that's 1 p.m. For the West Coast, that's 10 a.m. Wherever you are, calculate accordingly. I can't wait to see you there. There's so much love here for you. And I just can't wait to celebrate your success as you start living the most empowered version of you. Have a great day.